Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. I am back for a Friday Reads video, but this is going to be a very quick Friday Reads because I'm also going to combine this with my March, yeah, we're in April now, right, my March reading wrap-up. So I finished in the past week 3 books, all of which were in March. I haven't finished anything yet in April. And let me tell you, there were definitely some highs and lows this past week because I had 2 5-star reads and a 1-star read. So I'm going to start with the 1-star read, which was in fact Merle Feld's A Spiritual Life, A Jewish Feminist Journey. Now, I will say I do not give out 1-star ratings very often. I really reserve them for books that I feel are almost like personally offensive in some way. The John Warner book, Why They Can't Write, I gave 1 star to that in 2019 because I felt like it was an affront to good research. Last year in 2020, I read 120 something books. I didn't give any of them 1 star. No 1-star ratings last year at all. This book got a 1-star rating for me because it is quite frankly an affront to good writing. The organization is all over the place. She has all these little vignettes and anecdotes, and you know, she'll go on one page from talking about a Jewish holiday to talking about a wedding to on 2 pages later talking about a funeral to, you know, 2 pages later talking about when she was in Israel. And it's like, it has no clear, again, organization to it at all. Also interspersed with these little vignettes are a bunch of poems that she wrote. And y'all, they're bad. They're really bad poems. And there's just a ton of really bad poems in this book. And all of the poems, maybe like 2 or 3 of them were not terrible, but yeah, most of them were bad. Just really, really bad. So this book, again, is an affront to good writing. And so for that reason, I've rated it 1 star. So I'm not going to go on and on about it, but yes, so 1 star. So the next book I finished this week was Masha Gessen, Surviving Autocracy. And I listened to this as an audiobook, so I don't have it here to hold up and show you. This is the first book I've ever, I'm going to say consumed, because I didn't read it, I listened to it, by Masha Gessen, but it will definitely not be my last. This was a 5-star read for me. I thought this book was so smart. Basically, Gessen draws on their experience living in Russia under Putin to talk about how Trump's rise in the United States and Trump's presidency constitutes a sort of autocratic attempt. And it's just really smart how Gessen will take a scene from sometime during the Trump era presidency and just dissect it. The analysis, again, is just so smart and sharp and incisive, and I kind of feel like maybe one reason why this book did not move on in the BookTube prize, because it was included in the nonfiction octafinals, but it didn't make it into the quarterfinals. I feel like maybe one reason why that is because people just don't want to hear about Trump anymore. They're like, let me just put that, you know, behind me, which I totally get. But again, I just felt like this book was so smart, and I really appreciated Gessen's insights in describing like a press conference with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, where it was around the time of Thanksgiving, and then before she would let any reporters ask her questions, she made them all say like something that they were thankful for. And, you know, and Gessen really sort of breaks that down into like basically a power struggle between Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the media. And Gessen does not let anyone off the hook here. She does not let journalists or the media off the hook. She definitely doesn't let the American public off the hook. Certainly no one in Trump's administration is let off the hook, etc., etc. So yeah, really smart, highly recommend it. I actually teared up a little at the end because Gessen reads Langston Hughes' poem, Let America Be America Again, and it was just a really good end cap of this volume. And again, I got a little teary. So yeah, I will definitely be checking out more of Gessen's work, and I'm super glad I read this, so 5 stars. And then the last book I finished this week was also a 5-star read, so yay. And that was Roya Marsh's collection of poetry, Daylight, which I read upon the recommendation of Mark Nash and also Roz at Scally Dandling About the Books. So basically, this collection centers Marsh's experience as a black, butch, queer woman. And it does that thing that I really love in poetry collections where it's a really good mixture of experimental poetry with experiential poetry. So that was a great combo for me. And yeah, again, some of these poems made me kind of tear up, and I love sort of having that, that emotional connection with poetry. So here is an excerpt from, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here's an excerpt from one of the poems in here that I really liked. And this is called In Broad Daylight, Black Stars Look Like Gyrochronology. Which, by the way, is defined at the beginning of the poem. Astronomers can decipher the age of a star by their spin rate. The scientific term for this is gyrochronology. So later in the poem, it says, question, how do you tell the age of a dead body? A, you check for blackness. If no blackness, the body will still be breathing. B, you pluck a star from its mouth. C, the more massive the star, the faster it burns up its fuel supply and the shorter its life. D, the most massive stars can burn out before they finish high school. Corpses in crosswalks rising to the Hudson surface, swinging from trees. You can't metaphor modern-day lynchings when there are actually modern-day lynchings. So yeah, really, really raw and like in your face. And yeah, I really love this. Again, a perfect blend for me of the experimental with the experiential. And I'm definitely grateful for to Mark and Roz for recommending this collection. So I'm definitely excited to follow Roya Marsh's career as a poet, because this is her debut. So if this is her debut, I can't wait to see what she's going to do later on in her career. So yeah, 5 stars. So on to currently reading, and this part's going to be quick. So I'm still, of course, reading my mammoth, The Count of Monte Cristo. I have crossed the 900-page mark. So yes, progress. I have what, like 550 pages left in this? Yeah, that's awesome because I've been reading this for so long. I mean, not really. I've been reading it since the beginning of March, but it feels like it's such a long book. But yeah, progress is being made. I am over 900 pages. So I'm still reading that. I'm also reading as an ebook Ijeoma Oluo's Mediocre. I am not quite halfway through that. I'm a little under the halfway point. And I am enjoying it, but I'm finding some sections of it are more engaging than others. Pretty much in every chapter, Ijeoma Oluo explores some kind of historical context for the concept that she's talking about that has to do with maintaining white male status quo and or mediocrity. And I find the historical examples that she discusses a lot less interesting than more contemporary things that she talks about, or sort of personal anecdotes from her own life that are included. But I am enjoying that, and I suspect I will finish it within the next week. And then the last book I'm currently reading is Mother for Dinner by Shalom Auslander. And Shalom Auslander is a contemporary Jewish American writer. I read his book Hope, a Tragedy in, I want to say 2017, and really loved it. And then I read his short story collection, I think it's called Beware of God, in 2019. Thought it was fine. I think he's a better novelist than he is a short story writer. And this book of his is his most recent. It came out in the second half of 2020. And it's how can I even describe this? So it's about cannibals. It's about cannibals. I'm gonna read you the blurb. So, Seventh Seltzer has done everything he can to break from the past, but in his overbearing narcissistic mother's last moments, he is drawn back to the life he left behind. At her deathbed, she whispers in his ear the two words he always knew she would: eat me. These words by themselves are not remarkable. The Seltzers are cannibal Americans, a once proud and thriving ethnic group, but for Seventh, her request raises some serious questions, both practical and emotional. Etc., etc. And then it goes on to say, Seventh struggles with his mother's deathbed request, the sense of guilt and responsibility he feels to her, and to his people and to his unique cultural heritage is overwhelming. But he has a young daughter now, and so even as the rest of mankind embraces the boxes they've been put into, Seventh is determined to escape his once and for all. So that is the premise of this insane and zany book. And I have to tell y'all, I just started this a few days ago, and I'm already like 75 pages from the end of it. I'm really enjoying this book about cannibals, which again sounds crazy, but yeah, and I think the things that I like about it are that it's very Jewish in its sense of humor. It's not about Jews, and the cannibals are not meant to be, you know, completely stand-ins for Jews or anything like that, but it's very Jewish in its sensibility. It's very dark in its humor, and it's also campy, and I think that's the other thing I like about it. It's very campy. Like, everything is firmly tongue-in-cheek. Everything's done with a wink and a nod, and I love things that are campy. So yeah, I will have more thoughts on this after I finished it, which I suspect will probably be, you know, over the weekend sometime. So yeah, reading Mother for dinner. Okay, so that is it for the Friday Reads portion of this video. So I'm going to do a very quick lightning round, kind of overview of the books that I read in March, and my rankings for them. I actually read 14 books in March, y'all. How did I do that? I have no idea. So yeah. But that's very exciting. I don't expect to keep up that kind of pace of reading, especially not during the regular school semester. Again, how did I even read 14 books? I don't know. That was a lot. But yeah, so let's go. So obviously in last place was Merle Feld's Spiritual Life, which got 1 star, and I've already talked about that. In the number 13 spot was Amy Stanley's Stranger in the Shogun City, which I read as part of the BookTube Prize, and I've already talked about this in my nonfiction Octafinals blog, which I will link down below if you want to hear more about this. But essentially, this book got 2 stars from me because I felt like it doesn't answer the so what question, and it also doesn't totally know what it's about. So that one got 2 stars. Then in 12th place was Casey Plett's A Safe Girl to Love, which is a collection of short stories. I didn't love these. I felt like the stories were too repetitive. The main characters seemed too similar to one another. Didn't really understand what the point was of the stories, but I will say I did learn something about a very specific kind of experience of being a trans woman. So 2.5 stars. In the number 11 place was Kindred, Neanderthal Life, Love, Death, and Art by Wragg Sykes, which again, I also read for the BookTube Prize Octafinals nonfiction round. Again, I'll link that down below if you want to hear more of my thoughts about this. This book was very informative, and Wragg Sykes obviously has a lot of passion and interest in Neanderthals, but she did not communicate to me as the reader why I should also care about them. So 2.5 stars. In number 10, coming in number 10 was Agatha Christie's The Tuesday Club Murders. I got this from the library, so I already had to take it back. This book got 3.25 stars for me. It is a collection of short stories, all of which feature Miss Marple. I thought the stories were enjoyable, but I feel like the format of them got a little too repetitive. And I think I just don't enjoy the format of cozy mystery in the short story form as much as I enjoy it in a longer novel form, because you don't get as much chance as the reader to learn about the characters and their motivations and do any sort of guesswork before who did it is revealed. So that got 3.25 stars. Coming in at number 9 was Daniel Silva's Moscow Rules, which is the 8th book in the Gabriel Allon series. This book also got 3.25 stars from me. It was entertaining, and, you know, eventually I did sort of get into it and enjoy it, but it didn't work as well for me because it used almost the same plot premise, or a major plot premise that Silva had just used like 2 books ago, which annoyed me. So 3.25 stars. Number 8 was Les and Tamara Payne's The Dead Are Rising, which is a biography of Malcolm X. I also read this for the BookTube prize. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I thought it was a good biography. It seems very well researched. It pulls in information from a lot of different sources. It definitely paints a not entirely flattering portrait of Malcolm X, but I think I was not necessarily the right reader for this book because I didn't have a strong pre-existing interest in Malcolm X, but if you do have an interest in him, this is a great book to read. So 3.5 stars for The Dead Are Rising. And number 7 was Naomi Shihab Nye's collection of poetry, Transfer. I gave this collection 3.75 stars. This collection centers highly on Naomi Shihab Nye's father. I feel like thematically it doesn't all quite come together. There are a lot of poems in here that seem disconnected from the main themes of place and her father and his memory and legacy and impact. But otherwise I thought it was very good. The poems were mostly quite accessible. And I would recommend it if you like poetry. So 3.75 stars. That was number 7. At number 6, oh, nope, just kidding. Number 6 was Julia Alvarez's novella Afterlife. I read this in an ebook from the library, so I don't have it here to hold up. I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it because it has some melodrama, which I love. I also really liked that it was a love letter to books, which I was totally here for. And yeah, and it was also a quick, compelling, engaging read that kind of explores how to process your grief and move on with your life. So yeah, really like that, 4 stars. Looking forward to checking out more of Julia Alvarez's backlist. Coming in number 5 was Carlos Lozada's What Were We Thinking? I gave this book 4 stars. Really liked it overall. It's an excellent overview of Trump-era nonfiction writing that breaks these books down into various genres and talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly, essentially. So it's definitely a good starting point if you are interested in these kinds of books, but, you know, want somebody else's take on them before you just start reading them all willy-nilly. Got 4 stars instead of 5 because I feel like it doesn't quite deliver on its central claim. Okay, so coming in number 4 was Helen Thurston's An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. This is a collection of 5 or 6 stories featuring an elderly woman named Maud who kills people. I was highly entertained. Was it the greatest writing or anything I've ever read? No, but I was highly entertained, and I would have read like 20 stories about Maud, and I really hope that Helen Thurston is writing more stories about Maud because I will 100% be here to read them. So yeah, that one got 4 stars from me. Number 3, Masha Gessen Surviving Autocracy, which I've already talked about. Number 2, my number 2 read of the month was Roya Marsh's Daylight, which I've also already talked about, and got 5 stars, as did Surviving Autocracy, also got 5 stars. And then number 1, my number 1 read of the month was Moby-Dick by Herman Melville, which also got 5 stars, and which I've already done a full standalone super enthusiastic review of, which I will also leave linked down below. So, okay, I think we finished everything. So that is my Friday reads. That is my wrap up and ranking of my March reading. Please let me know if you have read these books or have thoughts about any of them. I would love to hear that. Please also let me know what books you read and really enjoyed in the month of March. Leave all that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?